Welcome back. All right, so news of the day video. Pretty full board today. And we're going to start off talking about the Boston Bruins and Charlie McAvoy signing a deal that the internet's having the debate about whether or not he's overpaid. And to any Bruins fan, I would say no. I would say that for people who watched him in Boston, most fans would argue that he is not being overpaid, even though $9.5 million per season over 8 seasons is a lot of money, and there's a lot of risk, right? So 8-year contracts provide security, but they also come with a lot of risk because there can be players who don't play well for that entire 8 years. There can be players who go through all these injury problems during those 8 years, or various other things that can happen, right? But for the Bruins, Charlie McAvoy, the best young defenseman they've had in a while, and so they get him signed. And he's a good two-way defenseman. I don't know how many Norrises he wins, if he even wins one, but because I don't know if he'll ever get enough points to really truly get like a Norris Trophy win, but we'll see, right? So yeah, McAvoy, 8 years, 9.5. I do expect some to say it's too high, but for me, I think that's a good deal. Now, Jeremy Swayman, number one right here, is starting the opener tonight. So, Olmark didn't have a fantastic preseason, so Swayman gets the start tomorrow. And that's the first time that Tuukka Rask is not the starting goaltender in 10 seasons. It's been 9 straight seasons that Tuukka Rask started the opener for the Boston Bruins. So it is truly a new time for Boston, although discussions of whether or not they're going to sign Rask are still out there. So it is still possible that Rask signs a contract at some point soon and ends up, joining the team in likely January when his injuries should be all healed up. So yeah, so Boston in the news today. Of course, yesterday they announced, and again, these suspensions get announced usually right before or during games. Gabriel Landeskog suspended 2 games for the Colorado Avalanche for what happened with Kirby Dach there, the boarding incident. And so, yeah, Colorado will be without their captain for a couple of games, but I think they'll be fine. There's a lot of depth there. It's going to depend, too, on Nathan MacKinnon coming back, right? So, MacKinnon's not back yet after testing positive, but Coach Jared Bednar is. They had him on the ice today, and the Avs even tweeted out, hey, he's back. Coach Bednar's back. So, that's a good thing for Colorado. We'll see whether or not MacKinnon is cleared to play tomorrow. There was some discussion that he might be cleared to play tomorrow. So, yeah, good news for Colorado, although it goes along with the bad news that Landeskog's out for 2 games. Speaking of suspensions, Dylan Larkin will get suspended today. Now, tonight there's only 3 games. So it is much easier for me with 3 games on to be able to put together a board and do a news video rather than last night where I had a board on this side of me, a board on this side of me, and a TV in front of me, and a computer behind me. So keeping in mind I'm just one person. So I do my best to take notes as much as I can, but I don't stress about catching absolutely everything like I did the first year. The first year I did the reviews was so stressful because I wanted to obsess on every single detail of every game. But Larkin, this really wasn't a small detail of the game last night. That game between Tampa and Detroit got out of control. And I think the NHL needs to have a discussion with the officials about how that got out of control. It's not just when you call penalties; it's how you officiate a game. And so, Larkin's going to get suspended today for what is a surprise punch. You can call it a sucker punch on Joseph, although it was kind of a face-to-face thing. But it was we can admit Joseph wasn't ready and was a surprise punch after Joseph had pushed him into the boards. For anybody wondering, is there anything? Did Joseph get a fine or anything? No. The push into the boards, nothing happened there. And so Larkin's going to get suspended. I'm not sure how many games it's going to be. But yeah, so Larkin is out. I'm starting to think the NHL might want to look to their past. So in the past, the NHL had this really kind of interesting way of dealing with this kind of a thing, where you have an ugly incident against a team. A player would get suspended for games against that team, which would make sense, right? So think about the obvious target here is Tom Wilson, right? We always talk about, so Wilson gets suspended. So if he does something dumb, say against the Devils, and he gets suspended for 3 games, but that 4th game is against the Devils, suspending him those 3 games, and then in the next game he's in against the Devils, and there could be something ugly that happens. I don't think it mitigates that. So I do think that with a normal suspension, it's fine. Next 2 games. But with one like this, where that game gets elevated and out of control, they might want to think about going back to the good old days when guys would get suspended just against that team. And in this case, that would be they have 2 more games left against Tampa. And again, I think it's a creative way of dealing with it. Because it's not like Larkin's going to go out and sucker punch somebody at their next game. But the next time they play Tampa, odds are Larkin's going to end up in a fight. Things could get uglier. So, right? A little bit of a different way of looking at it. And I know there may not be very many people that would agree with that kind of idea. But it was something I saw when I was doing history videos that I thought, that's really interesting. Where a player would get suspended and they would say, okay, this incident happened against the Rangers. You're not playing against the Rangers for the rest of the year. Mark Stone had a nagging injury, according to Coach Peter DeBoer, which was apparently aggravated when he took that shot last night and his leg locked up on him. So we don't know anything more than that at this point. We don't know how long he's going to be out, if he's going to miss any time, because if it's a nagging injury, it's possible he went into the locker room, he iced it, or whatever they did with it, and he may be ready to go for the next game, which isn't until next Wednesday. In fact, Vegas sent a lot of their kids down to Henderson today to make sure they're playing games this weekend while they have all this time until next Wednesday to get things figured out. So, yeah, hopefully for Stone it's not that bad. And again, that's one of those good things where they don't play for almost a full week. Which is odd this early in the season to not have to play now for 6 days. Casey Mittelstadt got hurt last night against the Montreal Canadiens. He is expected to miss at least a couple of weeks with an upper body injury. So Buffalo without Mittelstadt, and it's tough because Mittelstadt was looking to have a good season. He was saying all the right things coming into this year, and now he's out hurt. So it's just one of those things that could just pile one thing on top of the other, right? So tonight, the emotional pregame of the night. Last night it was for Kivlenieks, where you had Merzlikins wearing his number as well, and it was a very nice moment, and then they win that game over Arizona, going away 8-2. So tonight, both teams are going to participate in this. Both teams today seen wearing Jimmy hats. So for Jimmy Hayes, so they're going to be having a pregame tribute to Jimmy Hayes, and apparently they have a couple of things planned. So that might be one that you might need a couple of tissues to get through that pregame. I'm not crying, you're crying, kind of thing. So. Yeah, Devils and the Hawks early in the season, and the passing of Jimmy Hayes is really something that hit the hockey community hard. Now, New York Rangers, speaking of players who passed away in the offseason, Rod Gilbert passed away. So they've been selling these patches. The proceeds go to charity. They sold out last night, so today they've restocked the store with a limited amount. This is straight from Rangers Twitter. And so the proceeds for all of these patches being sold go to charity. So it's a good cause, and there you go. Philadelphia tonight starts playing. Keith Yandle starts chasing Doug Jarvis down. Jarvis's record is 964 games. Keith Yandle 922, just barely up past Gary Unger. I still remember very well when Doug Jarvis set the games record, and Don Cherry raising the question of whether or not Jarvis beating Unger was fair, because he felt Jarvis played a pretty safe game and that Gary Unger played a much tougher game, and so he was more impressed with Unger's record than he was with Jarvis's. So we'll see with Yandle whether or not Yandle passes Jarvis. And again, is it players that play a safe style that end up getting these? On some level, I would think you'd have to be. Chris Tanev never going to get anywhere near 900 games. If you get 120 games in a row from him over a couple of seasons, I think you're happy. So, again, we'll see if Yandle gets into all those games. And what happens with Vigneault if he's not happy with Yandle? Because, as was proven in Florida last year, you can't bench a guy who's played over 900 games in a row. You just can't bench him. So it'll be interesting to see how things go in Philly. So Ottawa, the Brady Tkachuk deal getting done, and of course him getting the hero's welcome last night in Ottawa. It's a nice story. And everything being said about Brady right now and by Brady is that he wants to stay in Ottawa and that this is for real. While he was holding out and waiting on what essentially is a 7-year deal for number 7, all the discussion seemed to be whether or not he wanted to be there. Maybe he didn't want to play in Ottawa. Maybe he wanted to play in St. Louis, and this may have been the plan. And in the end, it's done. And in fact, Pierre Dorian giving credit to Eugene Melnyk, saying Melnyk kind of prodded him and phoned him and said, "Get this done. We've got to get this guy in camp. We got to get this guy in camp. We got to get this guy done. This has to happen." So Melnyk, to his credit, absolutely pushes to get the Tkachuk deal done and signs the checks. That was the question mark, right? So Shabbat's done. Batherson is done. Now we've got Tkachuk done. So who else is coming up for the Ottawa Senators? Norris and Formenton are next summer. Norris has looked really good. Formenton is a dangerous player. And then 2023, it'll be Stützle and Pinto. And keep in mind that you've still got some pretty good young defensemen waiting to come up who are likely going to end up being pretty well-paid players too. So while right now the Senators, according to Cap Friendly, have over $20 million in cap space, eventually that's going to get eaten up by the younger players, which is why you don't just spend that cap space when you have it. Teams that do that very often end up regretting it. So there you go. Ottawa, good moves. And I think for Boston, I think they get a good deal with McAvoy. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.